Okay, so I'm Julius. I live in I live in Leeds in North Yorkshire, North Yorkshire side of Leeds, and I've been here for a couple of years. Um, Running, I was rubbish at running for years. Well, I didn't really know. I just didn't like running. My sister always wanted me to run, and I didn't. I did a fair bit of sort of cycle commuting when I lived. I grew up and lived in London and cycled everywhere, and got quite a good base of fitness without realizing it. But I was pretty unhealthy, bad sleeper, smoker, drinker, poor lifestyle, lots of bad choices, and sort of fell into running later on, sort of early 30s, like about 31, 32, and was encouraged to do a half marathon, which I said I'd do, and then never again. I did that, and then it was encouraged. And I thought, well, I like cycling. I did a duathlon, and I don't like swimming, so I've never taken any further than that. Fortunately, not gone crazy, and just sort of along the way, just sort of fell into running lots. And after I moved out of London when my son was born, when I was 32, and got a dog and got really into trail running. There's not really much fell running in Somerset, but there's lots of hills in the Mendips. So I lived on the foothills of the Mendips in Shepton Mallet on the Mendip Way, and really fell in love with running on the hills. Really enjoyed technical terrain, and probably not quite as what you get on a backyard. So very, very sort of, yeah, enjoy really fast descent races. And strangely, yeah, I moved from the hilliest part of Somerset to the flattest part of Yorkshire, as I live east of Leeds, in between Leeds and Selby, which is in wetlands, which is much like the Somerset Levels, which was not where I lived at all. So, like I said, I've gone from one extreme to the other. But actually, the backyard format is not particularly hilly. Most courses have a bit of elevation, but nothing terrible. So it suits me all right for now. Yeah, that's kind of that. Right. Well, I mean, I guess like a lot of people heard about the backyard format around sort of 2019, into when the start of COVID in 2020, there was a lot of buzz about obviously Big's backyard, and looked at the relatively modest now in comparison, but at the time seemed quite high sort of expectations on what what people were already doing, and what people might be able to do. Obviously, they've been completely blown out of the park recently, but really fascinated in the format. So, and then we went into sort of lockdown in COVID. So, I rather comically, and I look back on it now and realize how ridiculous it was. I looked at, I think, the record that Courtney Dauwalter did at the time, and thought, and maybe said to some friends, I can do that, which I've obviously never done. But obviously that goalpost has completely shifted, so that's blown out of the park, and I'm quite happy to not be considering myself in sort of world record contention, because that is of no interest to me to go to that level of suffering. But I did, but out of interest, worked out roughly the elevation of the Big's backyard, and did a route in Shepton Mallet where I lived at the time, and set about doing a backyard from my house, just to see if I liked the format. And yeah, I did 24 hours on the nose. I decided I didn't know how far I was going to go. I had a few things going on at the time that obviously everybody did with COVID, but I had some other stuff going on that I wasn't sure how far I was going to go. Originally, I was going to see if I could do multiple days, and just settled on the hit the 24. So I did the 100 miles. But I made some absolutely classic mistakes, so it was quite funny. So yeah, that was the first sort of go I had at a backyard format, and I decided I absolutely loved it. So like I said, I did it from my house, which I did it completely. I intended to do it on my own with some support from maybe people come and pop in, and we were at that point in COVID where there was a rule of six, so people could come and see me, but couldn't obviously get too involved. I had Ali ran a few laps with me, and my friend Duncan ran a few, but the majority of it I ran on my own. I even took my dog on a couple. I took a couple of dogs on a couple of laps. I had a dog that's not with me anymore, but ran a few laps with the dogs, which was great. So did the admin in the home as far as getting the dogs sorted. And I think I even vacuumed mid rest on one lap. And I just decided it was brilliant. Thought I loved it. At the time, was looking at the potential events. There's one in Somerset called the Bagyard Ultra, and I was looking at that in Yeovil as the one that I thought I'd probably do. I heard about your backyard, the Rasselbock Backyard Ultra in Sherwood Pines, which is nice and an hour's drive away, which is nice, and was heavily plugged in the Bad Boy Running Club, and we had quite a really big contingent turn up to that. So I entered that. That was my first official race entry for backyard. It's the only one I've ever done that's not self organized. But yeah, so then I turned up at Sherwood after having a few practice events, and I've got a route near me that's very similar to Sherwood Pines in the way that you have to run it, a little bit more technical, but generally a good practice route, and I can go out and do some yards near my house if I want. But it's very different, as I maybe come on to in a minute, from running on your own to running at an event, which was a slight surprise. I think I mentioned earlier, a bit geeky, a bit of a nerd, and I just absolutely love the distance. The 4.167 being exactly the mile per hour to do 100 miles in 24 hours. For a start, I love that. That's very silly that it's just such a simple thing. But the strangest things, it's so obvious. But when you talk to people who know the backyard format, quite often, unless they're competitive, unless they're doing it themselves, they don't realise it's 100 miles in 24 hours. And to me, it's the most obvious thing. It was like when someone said the distance, I then automatically multiplied it out and was like, oh, that's 100 miles, and it was like, that's obviously why. And the fact that no one would think, the fact that no one says, well, that's a weird distance, why that? It always throws me. And then when I point it out, they go, oh, yeah, I never noticed. So that, yeah, the geeky side of me loves the format like that. I like the idea with lapped events, and I've done a few. I did some 12-hour and 6-hour lapped events with White Star Running when I was in the West Country. They do a lot of what they call frolics, which are generally between 4 miles and 10k. Not technical, but offer like very similar to Sherwood, digestible. Tend to have bit more elevation, a bit more mud. But you never know what this year might be like with weather before the event kicks in. So yeah, and I love ultras. I've really enjoyed ultras before. One of the things that I've recently had real issues with has been running ultras on courses that I want to see that go into the night, and then me not liking that event. But in a lapped event, it doesn't matter because you've seen it. So with the backyard, I can just extend out what I enjoy doing. I can keep running, and it's such a lovely pace that you can really enjoy it. And it's not fast. It's not walking. You have to at least run most of the lap, even if it's a very slow, shuffly jog. You still have to get some running in to make the lap round. You could potentially just about power walk it, but that's really tiring anyway. So I like the format like that. And I like admin, love race admin. I love getting all my kit out. I love having, little bags and drop bags and stuff in big ultras. So backyard's perfect because I have my kit box, and, I'll have it's basically, I always carry this. I've had this massive cool box that I used to have in the car, and every lapped event I've ever done, that goes with me. And I just really enjoy it. I love the admin. It's geeky and silly, but that's what I like doing. So my main thing is not a distance goal. It is just to run as long as I enjoy doing it. I would be lying if there's no distance or time that I've got to attribute to it. The furthest I've ever run before is 112 miles on the Devon Coast to Coast Ultra. I would be disappointed if I don't go further than that. So obviously that means I'm looking to go over 24 hours. I would expect that I should like to see myself hit. I would love to hit 200 miles, so 48 hours or more would be ideal. And I think that was my target that I was a bit vocal about. But I just thought there's no harm in it. I wasn't beaten up by the fact that I didn't meet it. That's what I'd like to do. Last time I said, I think I can do over 48 hours and see where it goes. Yeah, so aspirations wise, yeah, probably I'd love to hit over 2 days, over 48 hours. And if I do, 10 yards and I'm like, you know what, I'm not feeling it, but I've had a great time and I don't feel like carrying on, then I'm quite happy to stop early and not be disappointed with that if that's what happens. Ah, fantastic. Okay, right, cool. Well, I mean, so I've looked. I'll be completely honest. I need to look at the entrance and really remind myself of everyone who's in there. Last time, I knew loads of people who were going who were all from Bad Boy Running Club. That I'm in the Bad Boy Running Club, which is great. Um, One of my friends from the club, Wanusha, who we've both in that I'm not involved as much as I was in. I used to be on the committee, and we set up the club originally back in 2019. So I've been in it from the start, but because I wanted to focus on other things in life, I've just stepped away from the admin of the club. But I was on the committee with Wanusha Campbell, who's running the event this year, and we've never met in person. And we've been at loads and loads of committee meetings. We've had loads of Zoom calls. We've chatted loads through like Messenger chat and FaceTime and things like that. But we've not met in person. We seem to have loads in common. Her family seems absolutely lovely. Anyway, no, I'm really looking forward to running some yards with Wanusha. I don't know what her goals are. I don't know how far she's planning on running, but certainly love to run some with her. And I've known Vic Vic Izzy Owens, most commonly known by. I think she's got a different the shiny on a happy runner. That was it, a happy runner, and so that's her Instagram handle, and she does bright clothing. So I've joined her on her one of her legs on the Monarch's Way that she ran back in late 2020 when I lived near the route. The route covers all over the UK, but lived basically on the route and ran with her from Bristol into near Shepton Mallet, near Glastonbury, and really get on very well with Vic. So I'm looking forward to running with her again. My friend Brad, who I ran a lot of it last year, he's not running, but he's coming along to just be there for support and see people, and probably be one of those annoying people that stops me from sleeping, which is absolutely fine because that's part of my plan this time. And apart from that, I'm just looking forward to the fact that there'll be people I don't know. I met loads of people last time, and I don't actually know. And part of me decided not to look to see who's there because so many people I've never run with before, and yet I just would run a yard with and find myself chatting away, and or not, or them just decide to talk to me and just listen, and it was just nice. And I'm looking forward to that. So keeping it a little bit, very much just enjoying who's there and seeing what happens. Yeah. I think that I would. That's really tough, isn't it? Really tough, really tough, really tough. I think I'm really intrigued by the novelty of a horse-sized duck, but I think that the seeing it would be it. Whereas to have a little teeny tiny duck-sized horse that was mine, to have it as
Yeah,
my
you
little
get to keep
friend,
it. Yeah,
I get to keep it as my friend,
yeah, you
right?
can have it.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to go on horse ride. That'd be really cruel, trying to get that thing to carry me. But wouldn't that be great? I love horses. They're fantastic.
I thought it'd be really cool to have a horse-sized duck. Just imagine having to be able to ride that down the street, or you
true.
could take you on flights.
But I mean, I've known some really friendly ducks, but I'm not. I've also known some less friendly ducks, which
Mm.
I think there would have to be some bonding before I could trust the duck to
Yeah,
not shake me off mid-flight. Whereas the little teeny tiny horse that could just sit, it could go in my little top pocket. I
yeah,
could take it on ultras. It could run some yards with me.
yeah. You could just trot around your table while you're working.
Duck size. It's actually not teeny tiny.
Yeah, I mean it's
Oh
still a good,
yeah,
probably just shy of a foot.
yeah. I could make a little cart for it. To like clip clopper. I mean, actually, that's almost like it's only like the size of a small dog. So I wonder if it would enjoy running along with me.
Probably horses like running.
I do. Shoeing it might be difficult. Yeah. The
Just
teeny
staples.
tiny little teeny tiny irons. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Definitely for me, it would be the duck-sized horse, please. Thank you, Eric.
perfect. I will get one on order for you.
Fantastic.